Hi my lovely people, how are you all doing? Thank you very much for joining me this evening. I hope and pray you have been well. And guess what people, we just finished our series on parenting. I hope you took some time and got to just have a look at whatever it is that we are tackling in terms of matters parenting. And like we said, this channel is all about matters growth, matters development, and matters finding a good balance in life. So karibuni sana to Transform 360 with Susie. This is your girl Susan, the psychologist. And guess what people, today we're having a very interesting topic that I want us to delve into. And you know, I've just been thinking about life, reflecting on how things have been going on in society. And guess what? It actually dawned on me that this is a conversation worth having. And I know we've been having a lot of cases happening in terms of matters, homicide, abuse, name it, be it child abuse, be it partner abuse, gender-based violence. A lot has been going on, and I thought, why not delve into this topic and just shed some light on some of the things that happen that probably we might not be giving thought to. And it's important for us to just understand where we are at as a society, the things that probably people go through in terms of abusive relationships. I thought this is very key. And even as I mentioned this, I cannot forego or turn a blind eye to even matters narcissism, because also narcissism has been lately, not even just lately, actually I think for the past 2 years, narcissism has been a topic, a conversation that everyone has been interested in. Everyone has wanted to know what has been happening, what goes on when one is dealing with narcissists and all that. And I know there's so much content out there. But you know what? I feel there's a category of people who are not, who are rarely discussed. And I felt this session is important for us, first of all, if you're in that situation, to understand the kind of psychological, emotional processes, or should I say, the kind of psychological, emotional reactions that you undergo. And maybe if you know someone who's also in an abusive relationship, then you'll also get to understand why people keep on asking that question. Why does someone stay for so long in an abusive relationship? Why did this person stay for this long in that relationship, knowing well that abuse has been going on without taking action? For example, if it's for adults, if it's even just for children, you know, children who undergo abuse, what kind of a situation do they find themselves in as victims? And so today's session will be delving into just understanding the mind of the victim, and at times the dilemma that victims go through that probably contributes to staying in abusive relationships for a very long period, and probably before someone is declaring it quits or deciding to leave, then more harm than good has been done. And so this session will help us so much, because basically whatever we'll be tackling today, we'll be looking into matters child abuse, into matters relationship abuse, into matters sex trafficking, into matters maybe a scenario where we have a coach coaching maybe an athlete and there's abuse in that relationship. Basically it will help us to just understand the mind of a victim in whichever type of abusive relationship. And so I am hoping that we are all ready to learn from this. Now, guess what? There is something that we call the Stockholm Syndrome. Yes, Stockholm Syndrome. This is something that most victims undergo, and probably they're not able to really know what exactly is happening, and they cannot put a name to it. And it is a psychological response to being held captive. And by being held captive in this case, we're talking about the victim. Yes, it is a coping mechanism that a victim develops in an abusive situation. And basically, this coping mechanism is all in a bid to help them, should I say, survive or hold on to, or just to help them push through the abusive period, the abusive situation. That is something that victims actually respond to as a result of a coping mechanism. And so basically someone is just wondering, so what is Stockholm Syndrome? And Stockholm Syndrome is a situation where victims develop positive feelings towards their abusers over time. Yes, a victim develops positive feelings towards their abuser over time. And in the Stockholm Syndrome, it's interesting because the victim tends to develop a psychological connection with their captor or with their abuser, and they begin sympathizing with them. Now, let me give you a brief history concerning the Stockholm Syndrome and how it came about. Now, Stockholm Syndrome got its name from a case that took place in 1973. There was a bank robbery incident at a place called Stockholm in Sweden. And so this is what happened. After the robbers took captive of the people that were in the bank, in the 6th day, when the police, of course, came, and we all know what usually happens with the rescue mission. So the police were there, they wanted to come and actually rescue their captives. Now, during this 6th day, in a standoff with the police, many of the captives who were bank employees in this case began sympathizing with the bank robbers. And so what happened is, you remember they've been taken captive for all this time, so it's actually 6 days into captivity. And so by the time it was getting to the 6th day, instead of the bank employees just thinking, having that true perception of who their captors were, or rather the bank robbers, instead they began sympathizing with them. And this is actually what happened. After being set free by the captors, after the captives were set free, some of the bank employees refused to testify against the bank robbers in court. And in fact, what even happened, they went a notch higher to raise money in the defense of their captors for them to be released. Research has shown that, or rather even psychologists have researched on this, and research has shown that the victim responds to the captor by developing positive feelings. And this is all a psychological response. Someone might not notice it, but it happens so unconsciously or subconsciously that they tend to develop these positive feelings towards the abuser. And it's actually a coping mechanism that just helps them to survive the days, the weeks, the years of trauma and abuse. And I'll give you guys a very good example of Stockholm Syndrome. You might find a child who has undergone abuse in the hands of their parents. And so what this child does, instead of viewing the parent as someone who is bad, they will tend to view the parent as someone who's good. No, but even if my dad does this to me, at least he provides for me. He ensures that I do not lack. That's just an example that I'm giving you. Or there are instances when he's brought me nice things. And so instead of the child having a negative perception or viewing their parent as an abuser, they start viewing them, or rather they start justifying and even probably having positive feelings towards the abuser. In fact, if you ask them, they tend to feel like the abuser even does them a favor, and maybe the abuse that they're going through might be as a result of they're the ones who have wronged the abuser. And instances of this, you even find maybe partners who have undergone abuse or are undergoing abuse, and in the very many years of going through abuse, they develop the psychological response. So what happens, they might end up even sharing with their relatives, telling them what they are going through in the hands of this man or in the hands of this woman. But when people are like, no, but then you should leave this person, you need to live like today, ASAP. This person is the same person who came and told you about the abuse and the abuser. But when you tell them to leave, they now, sorry for that, they now develop positive feelings towards the abuser. And so what happens is they start defending the abuser. Maybe they start putting, or even just putting a tag or a name to whatever it is that is happening in the abusive relationship. And they're like, no, but as much as he's abusing me, he's the father to my children, he's very loving to our kids, for example. Or maybe they might even tell you, imagine, he even ensures that we don't lack, he goes out of his way to do all these nice things. So this person is not as bad as you view him or perceive him to be. Have you heard of instances where people even report the case to a police station, or rather they go and record a statement, and then what happens is, after this person has been arrested, the victim is actually the one who comes and says, kindly, please just release this person. Yeah, release this person. Don't let them stay in any longer. Release them. I've decided to withdraw the case. Those are just a few examples. And it's interesting because you get to realize some of the symptoms of the Stockholm Syndrome are like we said earlier, the victim develops positive feelings towards the captor or the abuser. And then they sympathize for their captor's beliefs and behaviors. You might hear someone saying, oh, maybe it's the way he was brought up, maybe it's some of the things that he was exposed to when he was growing up by his parents, that is why he turned out to be this kind of way, or that's why he's turned out to be an abusive person. You might find even people saying, maybe I understand maybe he did this because he was frustrated at work, he was undergoing a lot of stress and depression, and maybe that's why he reacted in such a manner. Maybe you might hear someone just justifying the reason why maybe the captor or the abuser might be doing these things. And that is what we're calling sympathy for the captor's beliefs and behaviors. And then they also tend to have negative, now this is actually very interesting, they even tend to develop negative feelings towards authority figures, or in this instance, the police. And a good example of this is, you remember when in the Stockholm situation or scenario, when the police came to arrest the captors, what happened is, when these people were released and they were rescued from the hands of the abusers, they went ahead to defend the abuser, and not just defending, they even developed negative feelings towards the police. So now they actually now thought the police or the authority figures that wanted to take action against the quote-unquote robbers stroke abusers were the ones on the wrong. And so this actually happens a lot. Someone maybe has been going through abuse, and when someone tries to call them out of that situation, or just drive some sense of reality into their minds. So for instance, you could be having a sister or brother who's going through abuse. They come and share with you as their parent or even their sibling. And the moment now you try to bring to book the abuser, now instead of them siding with you and you're trying to help them, what they do is they start now developing negative feelings towards you who's coming to rescue. And so they start viewing you as a bad person. They start viewing you as, oh, maybe they give all manner of reasons. They're not happy for me when they see my marriage working at times. They're not happy for me when Baba Nani treats me this way. Maybe they're jealous. Maybe they hate this person. And then this person is the person that, at the end of the day, I've decided to settle down with. And they give all manner of excuses, and they hate on the wrong people. They develop negative feelings towards the wrong person. And so these are just symptoms of the Stockholm Syndrome. Other than this, as a result of just someone having going through a lot of abuse for a long time and tolerated it, so they also tend to develop mental, psychological, emotional, or mental health problems as a result of being exposed to abuse for a long time. And so things such as PTSD, where someone experiences the flashbacks, and as they're experiencing these flashbacks, it also accompanied with a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of irritation, being distrustful, they have trouble concentrating, and they also of course cannot relax or even just enjoy things that they previously enjoyed. All these things are symptoms of PTSD that people going through abuse end up experiencing. And so as we look at abuse and, you know, point a finger, blame the victims, sometimes they get to experience things that even they themselves cannot really understand. Why am I behaving this way? But you get to realize our minds are very important, and our minds are actually key. In fact, someone said that where your mind goes, your body follows. And so you can actually imagine someone who has been through abuse all their lives, or for quite a long period, or even just for that short period, and it gets to a point where they normalize the abuse, and it gets to a point where they get to now experience the Stockholm Syndrome, where they develop positive feelings towards their abuser. You can imagine the kind of turmoil that this person goes through, and even just the emotional dilemma and the psychological dilemma. Why? Because at one moment you hate this person, you dislike them, for all the things that they've put you through. Another moment, somehow they are defending this person, they feel like they love them. It's such a great, let me just say, it's such great turmoil for anyone to go through. And so at times, even when you're blaming the victims, when you're like, "Mbona lika for that long? What's wrong with that person?" Just like I said, where the mind goes, the body follows. The mind is a very strong, powerful tool. Imagine if your mind is held captive to that extent, then automatically you don't expect such a person to leave such a situation or to leave such a relationship, because it becomes very, at times even for them, they can't even point a finger or name whatever it is that they're experiencing. They don't know why they're behaving in this manner. Probably they lack that knowledge of just knowing that this is what I've been experiencing and this is where it has led me to. And it even makes it worse for maybe a child who has been going through abuse in the hands of maybe an authority figure or even a parent. You guys can imagine that. And that even makes it even worse. Your parent is the one who's providing for you, but at the same time, they're the ones who are also abusing you. And so a child gets to a point where chances are they tend to even develop the Stockholm Syndrome. Sometimes they just think, okay, I think this is normal. Probably this is how they express their love. Probably my parent did this because I made them angry. That's why they abused me. Maybe it's because I failed in school. Maybe it's because he was angry at mom. That's why he abused me. Or maybe it's because my mom was heartbroken. That's why she abused me. There are so many reasons that they try to just put forward to be able to defend this abuser, because at the same time they're caught up in a dilemma. What if I say, and my parent is angry at me, they stop providing for me, maybe they even chase me out of home? Where will I go? How will I live? How will my life be? And so all these fears and anxieties tend to overpower and overshadow even just their thinking. And so even as we are quick to point fingers towards victims and blaming them and telling them, why did you stay for that long? You had to wait for this to happen to you. Sometimes it's not by their own accord. Yeah. Sometimes I think what they just go through becomes too much, that they are unable to process all these things and just think soberly. And so with that, I hope you've learned something concerning the Stockholm Syndrome. And yeah, this is a good thing to just reflect on and even just help victims understand probably what they could be going through, what they could be experiencing. And if you're also someone who is in the rescue position and you're trying to rescue someone, don't throw in the towel and throw your hand at them and say, you know what, I don't care, because this person I've tried, but it doesn't seem to work. Just be persistent, be consistent, keep on educating them on the things that they might be experiencing, keep on supporting them, keep on calling out the abuse and just calling it what it's supposed to be called. It is wrong. No one should abuse the other person. No one should go through abuse. No one should suffer in the hands of an abuser. It is wrong, it is wrong, it is wrong, and it is a crime. And with that said and done, I hope you have learned something. Kindly make sure you share this information to the people that you think or deem that it might be helpful. And even as for us, let us also be more supportive. Let us extend more grace. Let us not give up on victims of abuse. Let us keep on reminding them that they are worth it. They are worth love. They are worth being treated well. They are worth just enjoying even their relationship, whichever relationship it is, be it parent-child, be it spouse, partner, whatever it is, be it maybe even an employer relationship, be it a coach-athlete relationship, name it. Let us remind people that they are worthy of being loved and being loved well and truly. Thank you very much. And let me allow me to mention this as the last thing. And let us also always remind the victims that it is not their fault. So they should not crack their heads trying to understand why the abuser does this, why they treat them in such a manner. I mean, an abuser, that is solely bad. It is actually solely their fault. No one should treat anyone in whichever manner just because maybe they're handling their own insecurities or there are things that they went through in life. It is not justified. Because, like we always say, every behavior that is learned can be unlearned. And even if someone says maybe that's how they've been raised, they can still unlearn that and relearn and get to learn new behaviors, new ways of doing their things, new thought patterns, new beliefs, it is possible and it is doable. So thank you guys for joining me, and have a lovely evening. See you in the next session, which is part 2 of just understanding the mind of a victim. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening. Goodbye. Have a lovely evening. Goodbye.